Welcome back, Shalligators, and welcome back, Lovatics. Yes, we are breaking down the most recent episode of Demi Lovato's documentary on YouTube, Dancing with the Devil. This is the third episode. We covered the first two last week, and this one was called Reclaiming Power. And yes, she didn't capitalize reclaiming or power. Those words are lowercase, but yet Dancing with the Devil is capitalized. If you think this isn't making me crazy, you are wrong, but we're moving forward. That's fine. We're going to talk about some things that are going on in this video. So last time we talked about, like, is she kind of doomed for a relapse? And, I broke down, like, how she would give these flashes of incredible self-awareness and accountability, but then either Demi or people on her team in her orbit would sort of temper that with, well, it's not her fault. Well, she needed to break free and just show everybody. So we talked a lot about, like, how to stop making the same mistakes and how to take responsibility for yourself, which sucks. It sucks so bad to be responsible for your own life. But actually, that is the only way to live. So go ahead and check those out. I'm also going to respond to some of the comments that people left on there because there was one line of logic that her fans kept spewing at me that I'm like, really? Okay. Great. I'm so glad you introduced this into evidence because I'm going to dismantle it line by line, but okay. Today, we're going to go through this one and talk about the concept of reclaiming power. How do you get your power back after someone has wronged you? Demi, she put this in the context of when she was raped, when she was 15, and also the night of her overdose. And she did something that most of us would look at and be like, what? But she explained why she did it. And then you're like, oh, I get that. And we have done this, which is go back to the same place we got hurt in the first place and try to reframe something and take back our power. Is this a smart thing to do? Does this ever work out? I'm going to tell you the right way to do this and the wrong way. But before we get started, just to remind you guys to join me on Instagram at shallonxo. I always let you suggest the topics. I love to connect with you guys there. Also, if you would like a personalized video shout out, head over to Cameo. You can get a pep talk from me, a birthday wish. I'm also on Memo, Memmo. That is the platform. It's basically Cameo, but for Europe and the UK because Cameo is not available everywhere. But now I'm a worldwide bitch, baby. You got hoes in different area codes. Also, head over to Flays. We are doing some super saucy videos this week about penises, uncut versus cut, size. Does size matter? How to tell if a guy's going to be a big size. And I've got another one going up, another story time going up in a few days, so get excited for that. So Demi, it's like we love her. She is a talent truly for the ages. She's like a once a century talent. But, oh girl, I would love to say, you know what? I think she's out of the woods on this drug thing. And I think that she's really got a handle on this. I don't think that at all. I think that she is almost more vulnerable to her demons than ever because she thinks that she isn't. Right? So in this episode, she talks more about her history and some things that happened the night of her overdose, some things that happened in her past. And also she talked about her management team. I thought this was kind of a weird episode. Like, it was shorter than I thought. And I'm like, what was really the point of this? I don't know. I thought it was strange. It was kind of like a bridge episode before we get to the good shit next week, where she introduces that doofus, that hairy child, Max, who I cannot wait. I'm going to have a field day with that. So she starts off by introducing us to her security team and then her business manager and then why she signed with Scooter Braun. Now Scooter, you probably know Scooter from his fiasco with Taylor Swift, right? That just never seems to end. But also he's Justin Bieber's longtime manager. He basically discovered Justin and helmed Justin through Justin's really, really bad few years, quite a few years, many, many, many years. And I can't help but think that was an attractive thing that Demi saw in him. Hey, he's used to a mess. I'm not Justin Bieber level of a mess. Maybe she thought that. Maybe she's as bad. Maybe she's better. Who knows? But I think that there was an element of, this guy's going to take care of me. And that she had that sort of viewpoint of a lot of these business dudes in her life, the security guy. She's like, he takes care of me the way he would his own daughter. Same with my business manager. He always is looking out for me. She was getting choked up talking about it. Why do I bring this up? Because I think she has two very different factions of people in her life. People who are no nonsense, and people who are all about the nonsense. I think that dude, the gay guy who I keep thinking is wearing a yarmulke, but just a weird LA hat, Scott Michael Montgomery, I don't know, man. A lot of the stuff he says, like, he loves her, but it seems there was a lot of enabling kind of phrasing in the last documentary, like I said, where it's like, she just needed to break free from all these rules and just show everyone. That's a positive statement when show everyone is like, I'm going to win the dance competition. I'm going to win the hot dog eating competition. That is not a positive phrase when you're talking about doing a bunch of drugs. Not good at all. That's not how you want to show people. And like I said, I wanted to talk to some of Demi's fans. Let's have a little fireside chat, you guys, because on the last video, do you know what you guys kept commenting when I'm like, it's very worrisome that she considers herself California sober, which is a phrase, like, I'm from California. It's a phrase people use when they actually smoke weed and they drink. Sometimes they drink, but they're like, I'm sober, but I smoke weed. Weed is a fucking drug, dude. It's a drug. It's something that bends your consciousness. I'm not like, I've done my fair share of drugs, but I also knew that they were drugs. I wasn't doing a bunch of coke. And I'm like, oh, I'm sober. I was like, no, I'm doing a bunch of coke. That's how I'm living my life. And I'm like, if she thinks that she can do drugs in moderation, she's seen that multiple times. First person data points. That actually doesn't work for her. But you know what her fans said? She tried not doing drugs. She tried sobriety, and that just doesn't work for her. I can't tell you how many times people commented that. It just doesn't work for her to be sober. I should fucking say it doesn't. 3 strokes, she went blind, she can't drive, a heart attack. Yeah, I guess sometimes, you know what I do. I copy and paste what people are saying, and I put it in a different scenario to see if it makes more or less sense. She tried paying for all those purses and shoes. It just didn't work for her. Okay, so she stole them. It didn't like work for her to pay for those, to afford them. So she stole them. He tried getting girls and asking for consent, but like that didn't work. So he just started raping them. No, he tried and it didn't work for him. So he just raped them. Does that make a lot of sense to you? Do you think that that's a viable argument in a court of law? It's not. It is also not a viable argument to make excuses for someone who keeps going back to drugs. Not because, oh, I'm on this moral high ground, drugs are bad. Like I said, I've done a lot of drugs. It's because drugs are clearly bad for her. Moderation isn't something that works for her. Some people, they can. I did, but I'm not. Don't roll the dice on that, man. Some people can eat in moderation. They can have 1 slice of cake. Some people, they're like, I can't. If I have 1 slice, I'm having 10 slices. If I have 1 drink, I'm having 10 drinks. If I smoke weed, I'm ending up smoking crack. And Demi is in that category. Whether or not she's willing to accept it, man, time will tell, but it's going to be another really harsh learning curve. So great job on that line a lot. Hardcore Demi fans. So yeah, she surrounds herself with a team that's accountable. But then there's people who seem to like negate all of that accountability that these other people are trying to create. And so she talked about how the night she came back from this week-long trauma retreat, she called her drug dealer, the drug dealer who was with her the night she OD'd and who raped her, assaulted her, had sex with her while she was basically unconscious or ODing. And you're like, you came back from a whole week of learning about yourself and like, I'm going to be on this path of like sanity and dignity and healthiness, and bing, 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 you call your rapist drug dealer. And she said, I was looking to take back my power. And she said, what did she say? I wanted it to be my choice. And she also said that she did the same thing when she was 15 and lost her virginity through a rape. Fucking men. Just disgusting. Men, it's just disgusting. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. But she said, she's like, a month later, I called him. And she's like, because I wanted to like reframe the narrative. Like I wasn't the victim. Like I was taking back the power. Like I was going to have the control. And again, like you might hear that from an outside perspective and be like, what? If you've ever been in a situation where you do feel helpless, you feel powerless, you feel like you have been wronged and wounded, of course you want to take back your power. I mean, I say, of course, some people don't. Some people truly love their victim narratives. We talk about them all the fucking time, right? And Demi does have shades of that because she like has made this messiness her brand. You guys pointed out all the time in the last video, like this is her third fucking documentary. And in each one, she's like, forget what I said in the last one. No, forget what I said in the last one. Remember what I was like, I know what's going on. I didn't know what was going on. Now I know what's going on. Rinse, repeat, new mess, new documentary. I mean, on one hand, like good for her for like throwing a light on things, but like not good for her if this is just monetization of mess rather than an actual cleanup crew. Again, time will tell. So her going back to these traumatic people and almost trying to like redo these situations over again, I get it. I've always said, I mean, I don't say it, psychologists say it, this is a psychological truism. We tend to date people who remind us of our most difficult parent. Why? Because we want to do that relationship over, but do it right. And I have been in several very codependent dating relationships because I reminded guys just enough of their crazy mama. I'm usually older, I date younger guys. Their mom was like a narcissist, and I'm like kind of a narcissist. And they're like, their mom was like a great beauty, an aging beauty. Same. But like, I was just wrong enough, but I was just right enough. So they found a lot of like, oh yeah, like a lot of psychological itch scratching in me. And then that just created a lot of codependency. It's gross. And so now it's like the number one thing I'm looking for is someone I don't have to fucking fix. Someone who ain't got a crazy ass mama. That'd be great. Just a normal mama that I can get along with. So I get using that as like a template. Like we want to date someone who reminds us of something bad so we can fix it. It makes perfect sense that we would want to go back to a traumatic situation to do it over and fix it and get the upper hand. You cannot, though, find healing in the same place you got hurt. Again, let's copy and paste that idea into a different scenario. A skiing accident. You ever been skiing? It's a death trap. I don't even do it. I can throw myself down my own stairs for free. I don't need to buy a whole outfit. But if you broke your leg on a ski slope, would you stay up there? Would you stay up there to recuperate? Or would you go to your home in your bed? You probably go there. Okay, you're on crutches, you're ambling around. Do you try to go skiing again? No. You acknowledge, I need to heal. I'm not ready to do this. Maybe I'm never going to ski again because it's dangerous. I don't like it. Now I see what can happen. You're not like, get me back out there the day the cast is on. Some people do that, and those people are idiots. And we look at them and we're like, you need to acknowledge you're probably going to hurt yourself worse. This break is going to become a compound fracture, and you're going to have to cut your foot off and blah, blah, blah. We can acknowledge like that's going to go real bad. Emotionally, it can go that bad too. Now, people aren't idiots for being drawn into that dynamic. You know, like I said, it's natural, but it is not necessarily healthy and will not necessarily have a productive outcome, you know? And one of her counselors at Le Cirque, the like famed celebrity rehab, he said something interesting. Abusing your abuser is not where healing is going to come from. Well, why not? If you could just beat the shit out of your rapist with a tire iron, I don't know, you might feel a lot better. You know, I'm not saying go do it, but I mean, you thought about it, right? Feels nice to think about. Drunk driver hit your little sister. Put him in some concrete and sink him to the bottom of the Easter. It feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. But that's simply not always an option. We can't go around beating people with tire irons, unfortunately, but we can't. And we can't emotionally beat ourselves up with an emotional tire iron. We cannot go back to where the hurt happened and expect to find this healing. Because you know what we're looking for? A lot of times we're looking for closure. We're looking for some grand speech from this person who hurt us. Know this, that never happens, okay? That never happens. If that person was in touch enough and communicative enough, and I'm not even talking about like a rapist, I'm talking about like a fuckboy. If he could sit down with you and be like, this is why I did this is what's wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. If he was that aware and in touch and communicative and had respect for you, you wouldn't need closure in the first place. None of these scenarios would have ever happened. Closure, and I hate how true this is, it's something we give ourselves. No, I want to beat it out of the person who hurt me. Yeah, girl, I do too. Me too. But And I don't know, maybe that does work. I've never tried it. Maybe it does. If you have, please let us know. But typically, that's not the direction we can default to. We have to be able to give it to ourselves. And that's the gift and the curse, though. We can give it to ourselves. The gift is, wow, this power is within my hands this whole time. The unfortunate part is, fuck, now I have to do the work. Speaking of the work, we're going to get back to closure in a minute. Something else this rehab counselor said is the more people try to control Demi, the more she looked for ways to make her own choices. I'm going to make her own choices. This echoes what that other dude said, like, I'm going to show them. And this guy also says something like, how could you can't look at someone like Demi Lovato and it's like, she doesn't feel a sense of personal power and agency. That's crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy. You could just stop there. I don't know if there was another half of that sentence. There doesn't need to be. You can put a period right there. It is crazy that someone like Demi Lovato, who defined having personal power, defined that as doing drugs, not going on a humanitarian mission to Vietnam, not getting a college degree and, really exercising her mind. She defined it only as drugs. It is crazy that was the extent of the option she felt. And that tells me that's kind of horseshit. That's kind of horseshit. This woman has money. She has talent. She has freedom. She could go live in Bali for a year and chill out and get into... She could do so much more than the average person. And I've said this before in videos. What drives me crazy about celebrities who make excuses for their drug use and think it's cute, try to go to rehab, no, is that there are so many people, average people, who would give anything. They would give anything for help, anything. Their insurance doesn't cover it. They can't take time off work. No one's there to watch their kids. Fuck you guys. Honestly, fuck you. Because every time you deny all of this help, all of these resources, you're saying fuck you to those people who don't have it. It's like throwing away food in front of someone who's starving. And no, I don't have a lot of respect for that. I don't. Some people really want to get better, really bad. And they just don't know how. They don't have the resources. They don't have the support system. And one thing that Demi said kind of throughout this, because she sang that song where the chorus, nobody's listening, nobody's listening. She's like, that's how I felt. So let me get this straight. On one hand, you have, by her own admission, a therapist on staff, a nutritionist, a trainer, a wellness coach, a sobriety companion, a business manager, a talent manager, a security specialist. What is that, 8 or 9 people whose entire job, entire reason for getting up in the morning is keeping you healthy, keeping you on track, helping you live your best life. And you are going to sit here with a straight face and say, no one was listening to me. That's all they were doing, is listening to you, right? One of her assistants in the last episode said that Demi's eating disorder was so bad, she ate a cookie and she's like, I'd have to stay all night so we could stay up all night talking about the cookie. There are people listening. Again, this goes back to, I take responsibility, but not really because nobody's listening to me. You've got millions of fans who are listening. Again, she's like, I'm a role model. I don't want to be a role model, but no one's listening. It's not both, girl. Either people are paying attention to you and watching you like a hawk, or you don't exist. It is not both, depending on how much responsibility you want to take for X, Y, and Z in your life. She said something else that got under my skin. She's like, they decided for me when I was 18 that I was going to be sober. They decided for me. Do you know who decided for you? Your fucking bosses. That's work. My boss also decided for me that I was going to be sober while I was at work. Everyone's boss does. Whether you work at Cinnabon in the airport or you run a magazine, you are actually going to show up to work and be productive. That is work. It's just like, is this a wild, really punitive concept that you have to do the work people have paid for you to do? You have to get on that stage and remember the lyrics. You have to get on that tour bus and get to the next tour stop and be alive and functioning. You do have to do that. And she's like, some of the control came from a place of love, but I didn't always feel like I got the help I needed. I didn't get the help I needed. Therapist, nutritionist, personal trainer, security expert, If you have a soccer team full of people whose entire existence is oriented around keeping you healthy, and you sit here and say, I didn't get the help I needed. You are failing to understand the crucial crux of this. You gotta help yourself. If this issue wasn't drugs, let's say it was morbid obesity, say she was 400 pounds, and she had a trainer, a cook, a nutritionist, and she's like, I'm not getting thin. It's like, well, are you working out? We can bring you to the gym. You got to do the workouts. We can cook you the healthy foods. You can't binge on Skittles after. You would acknowledge that at the end of the day, the work that person had to do was the work that person specifically had to do, as we all do. We all just have to do our own work. Why the fuck? This is like human 101. This is human being 101. It just blows my mind that rhetoric is even passing through her head and sticking and taking root. Like, I didn't get the help I needed. She might have been saying that about her rape situation. I talked about my own situation in the last video, and like I told people, and it was very much like, bummer. But what I did instead of heroin was I did therapy. I worked through it. And it sucked, and it was unfair. And of course I wanted the whole wide world, everyone I love, to pull up and offload this pain from me. Take it from me, you fix it, clean my soul, dip it in bleach, and bring it back to me when I'm whole again. That isn't how it fucking works. It should be, but it's not. And you can kick and scream and say that it's unfair, and it is. Of course it's unfair. But fair is a 4-letter word. Fair doesn't exist, just like closure doesn't. Fair is something we give to ourselves. Closure is something we give to ourselves. But how? How? So, you guys know a phrase I love. It's a quote by Nelson Mandela, the man who knew suffering. He said, I never lose. I win or I learn. I go back to that more times a day than I should have to, but I go back to it all the time. I never lose. I win or I learn. I win or I learn. I would like to say Demi has learned things. I think she has. Has she learned enough? Who knows? Have any of us? Who knows, right? The jury is out. But when we can learn from a scenario, it stops just being painful for no reason. Because when a situation is unfair, when someone's hurt us, when someone's come against us, when there was just an injustice, right? We stay stuck. We stay in this loop. Why? This shouldn't happen. Fair. And it's just a sad story. It starts sad, it ends sad. It's just a sad, stupid bullshit story. But when we can learn from something, and look, learn is not the same as blame yourself. No. Because Demi said about her rape at 15, something that so many of us have felt who have been there. Well, I went in the room with him. Well, I was hooking up with him. I put the brakes on. He blew right through that. But, it's you being in a room with someone, you being drunk, you being on drugs. Not an excuse. And society tells us that you kind of asked for him. What were you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it keeps us from getting our own personal justice because we can't get out of that blame loop, right? But learning, like I said, is not that. When I think back about my scenario, because I blame myself forever. And at the core, I still do. It's like I logically know that that's not right, but I don't always feel it. You know what I mean? There's a difference. But when I go back to the learning, it's not like you shouldn't have been doing it. It's not the finger waggy voice. It's okay. You didn't actually want to go out with this guy. Your friends set you up. Why did you let them set you up? And it's not a blame. It's curiosity. Don't get furious, get curious. Okay, I'm curious. Why did I let my friends set me up with this dude who I wasn't attracted to? He seemed like kind of a douche. Well, because I hadn't really had a boyfriend. I'd never really had a boyfriend. And I just felt behind and I wanted to feel normal. And he was frat president. And, who am I to turn down a date? That was low self-esteem. That was a beggar's mentality. Okay, I'm learning from that. What I'm learning is I'm actually completely on schedule. Whether it's when I was 19 or now or whenever, I'm on schedule. And if I'm not feeling someone, I am allowed to say, no thanks, I'm good. No matter how he looks on paper. I don't date on paper. Okay, that's one thing I learned. Another thing I learned, if I don't feel like drinking, I'm going to say, no, I don't feel like drinking. I'm not going to do things to be polite. Sure, you can come in. Yeah, okay, we can have one more beer. Okay. I'm not doing things to be polite anymore. I'm using my voice a little bit more. I've also learned, like I said in the previous videos, I am saving myself. I'm not expecting other people to come in, swoop in, fix my life, save my life. And therefore, the upside of that, I mean, the downside is obvious. I feel alone a lot. The upside, though, is my life belongs to me. I get to make decisions based on what works for me, not what works for my family, not what works for my fans, what works for me organically. And so authenticity is the name of the game. I'm always checking with myself. How do I feel about this? Whether it's Pepsi versus Coke, city versus country, kids or no kids. I practice that authenticity. So when we can learn from this, when we can get some data points, okay, I actually don't like to do this. Okay, this is where things went wrong in terms of my decision making. It's not blame. It is never blame. Curious, not furious, right? Then a painful, this just like endless pain loop, this story that starts sad and ends sad, it's not a story. It's a chapter. It's a chapter in a bigger tale. Every plot line, every story, every movie, every book has rising and falling action, right? Ooh, they call it the dark night of the soul when like everything's really bad for the main character and the enemy is at the gates and the dragon is walking in, right? That's then. That is your chapter. That's your dragon chapter, right? But in every story, the dragon gets slain and the good guys win and the action rises back up again. And that happens when you learn. Because in movies, the hero learns to slay the dragon, learns to defeat the villain in the castle. Okay, now they learn, now they're stronger. They come out of this dark night of the soul, this low point, stronger and smarter, and they are able to complete this story and make it a champion story. And we can do that by learning. And you know what? It sucks. It's tough. It's the work. But this is the only thing that matters. If we're not doing this, nothing else we achieve, nothing else we buy, no one else we date is going to make, like, it doesn't add up to a hill of beans if the foundation everything in our life is built on is sad and rocky and underdeveloped and not learned from. Not learned from. We can't change what happens, but we can change how we feel about it. I will never, ever look back on what happened to me in college as anything positive. I don't. And I don't have to. And I don't want Demi to look back. That was great. No, that was great. No. But I do look at it as a growth opportunity. And growth is painful. That's why they call it growing pains, isn't it? Right? Okay, I can't change that it happened. I should be able to. That would be fair. I should be able to beat him to death with a tire iron. Very fair as well. But I can't yet. I can't. But I can learn from it. Okay. We talked about this in terms of the pandemic. I said this a year ago when all this shit was popping off. This is happening. This is fucking happening. And we can just be bitter and stew. Blah, blah, blah. We can be bitter and stay bitter, or we can get better. Bitter versus better. What's it going to be? You are righteously angry to stay bitter. You got a reason, girl. I get it. But what does that get us at the end of the day? What's it gotten Demi? It's gotten her multiple drug overdoses. And I mean, hopefully not anymore. I don't know, man. Life is long though. And pain, if we don't learn how to deal with pain and bad things that happen, the bad, painful thing that we maybe just experienced recently is not going to be the last one. This might not even be our last pandemic. But seriously, like if we don't learn like a playbook for dealing with painful things, unfair situations, bad people, then we are just going to constantly feel like we are battered by life. Just we're chained to the rocks and battered by the sea. Or we can have a playbook of growth. We can have a playbook of adaptation, modification, and overcoming, right? Okay, bad things are going to happen. Hopefully they're not going to be this bad. But you know what? If they do, well, I survived that, and that was pretty fucking bad. So, come on, give it to daddy. I can handle this. That's how I feel. I try to look at every bad thing that's happened. It's like, well, it didn't kill me. That's how I like to look at bad things that happen. Okay, how did I learn? How did I grow? Am I smarter for the next time? Am I wiser? Am I more in touch with who I am? What's authentic to me? What kicks up my intuition? What kicks up a fear response in a healthy or a negative way? What have I learned? How am I different? Because it's very easy to just focus on how we're different in a bad way. Well, here's how I'm broken. Here's how I don't trust. Here's how I'm damaged. I know. But how are you better, smarter, stronger, more resilient? If for no other reason, you're still fucking here, bitch. You're watching this video, right? Okay. The sun keeps rising. You're still here. So you're more of a fighter than you think you are. Embrace that. Don't embrace the victimhood. And it's like Demi is caught between these two worlds, you know? In some way, she's like, I'm strong and I'm learning. And then another way, she's like, but I deserve to do drugs. I deserve to do drugs. I don't know. It's a tough call with her. And she's so talented. And she seems to want to like learn all these things about her. But then it's just like a little boop in the wrong direction and she's just off the deep end. And which again is why it scares me. She's like, I'm California sober. I just don't think that ultimately works for her because I don't think it works for a lot of people. And you guys commented, you know, they're like, oh, my sister was an addict and yeah, I've heard this shit too. Or like my dad says stuff like this and like, it actually doesn't work. And I mean, you guys have said like, I can hear it in her voice. I can hear it in her speech patterns. Like she doesn't actually get it. I don't know. I hope she does. She's so talented. She seems sweet and cute. Oh, Demi. You know what? Demi's going to do whatever she wants. We're here to get better for us, for our lives. That's what we do here. Because some people can stay bitter, but the Shallontrage gets better. I want to know your thoughts on Demi. Tell me some other topics you guys want to hear about. I feel like celebs have been awful quiet lately. We're going to be back next time. We're going to be reviewing the latest Keeping Up with the Kardashians episode because you know they're just a fountain of lessons. And like I said, head over to Flays if you want some videos on wieners. Head on over there. And if you want like a video shout out with me, head to Cameo. Or if you want to connect one-on-one and have a longer question to ask me, head to my website, shallonlester.com and click submit a question. See you later, Shalligators.